project was a vision of the first Deputy Prime Minister of India, Sardar Patel. The foundation stone of the project was laid by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru on April 5, 1961. After carrying out a study on the usage of Narmada River water that flowed through the states of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat and into the Arabian Sea. A project report prepared for the dam led to much dispute among the states as to which states will use the water. As the negotiations bore no fruit, a Narmada Water Dispute Tribunal was created in 1969 to decide the fate of the project. After having studied a large number of reports and studies made by 3 states, the NWDT gave its verdict in 1979. Accordingly, the 35 billion cubic meters of water available for consumption from the dam, Madhya Pradesh would receive 65, Gujarat 32, and Rajasthan and Maharashtra would be eligible for the remaining 3%. The Planning Commission finally approved the project in 1988.
The Sardar Sarovar dam constructed on the second.
Introduce yourself. Who's going to have which role?
Yes, sir.
The Sardar Sarovar dam constructed on the second Narmada River aims to secure power as well as irrigation and drinking water for the drought-prone region. However, the project also had significant environmental impacts and has displaced large proportions of the population, especially poor farmers and ethnic and Adivasis, namely Bhil and Tadavi tribes, which are the indigenous population of India. Indeed, this situation catalyzed one of the major environmental protest movements in India. As the planning of the project was on its way, it soon caught the attention of the social activists like Medha Patkar, etc., who found out that the dam did not meet the required environmental and social conditions as meted out by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Foremost among those who raised the voice against the project, Medha Patkar was prominent, who first visited the site of the dam in 1985.
As we saw that the first stone was laid out in 1961, but recently the inauguration of the dam took place. So let us now know why it took so much time. We have Aviral and Ayush as the authorities who built the dam. We have Durvesh as the who will give the commoners and farmers perspective, and we have Nikita and Palak as the environmentalist who will give the environmentalist point of view.
And I'll be basically presenting the points of from point of view of Medha Patkar, who led the Narmada Bachao Andolan.
So this proposed Sardar Sarovar dam has displaced more than 2.5 lakh people, and the displacement of small farmers and tribal groups without a proper financial compensation led to a lot of problems for the farmers, Adivasis and tribal people. So here we also have a farmer who will now share his plight with us.
I am Ramlal. I was a small farmer growing wheat, bajra and some vegetables in my locality. After the construction of the dam, I was earlier happy, living my livelihood very peacefully. Up till the time when the construction did started, all my land that was acquired and was doing my livelihood over there was being acquired with the dam construction area. And I am generally from Bhil tribe, and I was promised to get basic amenities after my land was taken. My basic amenities and all the facilities that were to be told to me that was to be given was not given to me after that. And that's all.
So the people who were going to be affected by the construction of the dam were given no information but the offer for rehabilitation. So I, Medha Patkar, led the Narmada Bachao Andolan with over 2,000 people at a 5-day sit-in at PM's residence in New Delhi in order to convince the Prime Minister to reconsider the project.
So as we know, anything or any development doesn't have a 100% positive side. So this was also such a development. It had its positive as well as its negative. But the positives were very overpowering over here. So the thing they talked about the rehabilitation problem. So the government had promised around 40,000 people they'll be relocated somewhere. They'll be provided basic amenities to live a good life. But they were not even satisfied in that.
Yes, so exactly. Every public construction program has its own public outcry.
the numbers that they are claiming 2.5 lakhs, they have reached to that number today after so many years, after using so many metrics. But let us consider that time scenario. We had different government compressed. Yes. So at those times we didn't have those analytical skills. We used smaller metrics, and those regarding those 40,000 people, they were provided relocation. They were provided backup farms. They were given sufficient time to take their stocks, animal, etc., and set up somewhere else. What the real problem what they faced was they weren't ready to leave their comfort zone. All of a sudden they were asked to leave the farms which they spent their entire lives, their entire generation spent lives, and they were asked to go somewhere else. What we think is, for any project, for it to benefit the future generations, some generations have to pay the price. So we cannot compare that with this.
So the biggest problems for these tribal people and Adivasis is they've always lived on that land, and they're very used to that place. So a very big barrier they face is, say, language barriers. They don't know what is happening in outside their place, and for them, you promise them to relocate. But how are they going to manage? How are they going to learn? They're also illiterate, not educated, have no awareness of how to restart their life. Also, for many of them, the land they are living on is actually not even theirs. They don't have it in their name. So if you say you will relocate them, it will be very difficult for you to identify people like these, and they will suffer. So Narmada Bachao Andolan brought the national spotlight on environmental and rehabilitation issues raised by big dam projects. Not just this project, but various big dam projects, raising awareness of tribal and underprivileged people most affected by such projects.
Now coming to the cons, the environmental cons, the biggest cons were the earthquake trigger had already been started. There is a likelihood of larger seismic activity in the region, with the extremely volatile region getting activated due to the large water body. There are a number of faults under and around the river and dam site. With the forest getting lost and the catchment degraded as catchment area, treatment is only on paper. The slit will continue to gather up to a height many times of which is around 25 feet. Thus, the life of the dam will be reduced drastically.
So regarding the the assessment reports which were not fulfilled and not made properly, so we were not in the power at that time. It was compressed at that time, and now it's JCB. So we cannot comment on that. Apart from that, the problem of flooding. Flooding is not a new issue. It was there even before when the dams were not there. So were the people not dying at that time? So dam it not only it controls the flooding, but also it provides water to places where there is the problem of drought. So it's solving two issues.
Yes, just to further elaborate, how is a dam constructed? Is it just a one-night process? Initially, the routes and the best position is evaluated. Then the river before that is diverted, and amongst all of this, the number of families that are going to be affected is calculated, and only then is the plan finally executed. And talking about the benefits, we are talking about one tribe or one or Adivasi tribes. What about this? The Sardar Sarovar project is covering 3,112 villages and 73 talukas in 15 districts of Gujarat. It is irrigating more than 250,000 hectares of land, and that is alone in Gujarat. Talking about Barmer and other districts, it's going to be covering another 37,500 hectares. Regarding the power and other benefits of this, floods were happening before. Everybody remembers the 1970 Narmada flood. At that time, the public ultimately blamed the government that why is there no dam for better flood protection. And now even after the dam is built, when there are floods, the people is ultimately again blaming the government that although there is a dam, how can there still be floods?
See, the Sardar Sarovar project has already begun causing flood in the downstream region. Now, if the height of the dam is raised, it will be more. In any case, there is no specific guarantee of flood control as a benefit of the dam.
So to prove all of your to actually go to the roots of whatever problems are, and not just theoretically stating all of it, the Morse Commission was established to look into the construction of the dam and the environmental cost and human displacement. So this report clearly stated that the bank's policies on World Bank's policies on environment and resettlement were being violated, and that is why the World Bank's participation in this project was cancelled. So for a population whose livelihood entirely relies on agriculture, an ecological disaster such as this has economic impacts by damaging their means of subsistence. And
we are increasing the agricultural production. It is going to be estimated to be increased by 1600 crores. The power generation and water supply would add up another 175 crores, aggregating about 2500 crores of every year equivalent. So what about that?
Also, the environmental impact assessment was not done when the dam was given a conditional clearance and has not been done till date. A proper impact assessment has to be done before any more construction, and only that will help to know the magnitude of the dam's impacts. Only that can facilitate identifying the means and ways to mitigate them.
the building of the dam has entailed massive flooding of villages and production land. This has brought about extensive environmental consequences such as negative effect on downstream fishing, threat on wildlife natural habitat, water logging, silting of riverbed, deforestation and so much more.
So over here you are just talking about the disadvantages. What about the numerous advantages which a dam carries with itself? We haven't mentioned one thing, that it will also provide employment to around 1 lakh people. What about that? So
there are social repercussions, but there are also the benefits.
and when we are talking about many future generations which will get benefited from this, then I guess it's a small price to pay.
Why did the government just not let it go? It was already prolonged to an amount of 56 years. No project has been delayed for that long. Why did the government finally want? Was it just monetary benefit? I'm not denying, there may be not. But ultimately there was some benefit for the future generations to come. For the past generations may have faced troubles. Families were asked to leave their homes. People's livelihood was challenged, but we have to consider the blessings and the fruits that the future generations will be reaping.
Hydropower meets only 27% of the country's total power needs. The country has to look at other sources of energy generation, and these sources depend upon location, depending upon the location. So we have to make use of the resources that are available to us and look for energy production. So, but in order to build this project, every project will have its positives and negatives. But in this case, the positives outweigh the negatives, and but it is the responsibility of the government to balance the development and the collateral damages, so that there can be sustainable development and growth.
The project would have been more successful if they had paid attention, if they, in the sense the government and the policy makers had paid attention to the people who were most affected by this, so that there wouldn't have been any protest. If the rehabilitation process and the environmental impacts have to be taken into consideration, the project would have been completed in less time and would have benefited more and more people. As the project got dragged in the time, the cost of the project increased significantly, taking inflation factor into consideration over a period of 56 years. And this ultimately costed the government itself and also the lives of the innocent local tribes, which could have been minimized.
Thank you.